Now, I have in my hand here your plan for Canadians for Responsible Recovery, and you've got 6 key points, and I want to whip through them. Let me read the title of each of these 6 to you, and you give me a 1-sentence explanation. So I want to be able to get through all 6, so these will be short snappers. Your first one is, we have to curtail public spending, not expand it. Give me a soundbite on that.
Well, frankly, the fact that that should even need explanation is, I guess,
mean, if
beyond
only Trudeau
me.
would read it. Okay, the second point, we have to move away from arbitrary emission reduction targets. That's the same thing. I mean, it's just not the priority now.
No, and not only that, but again, and a lot of this gets down to believing in fantasy land or believing in facts. Every single international climate accord has had targets that were never met by anybody.
Right.
At what point do we say, this is not going to happen? Why do we adopt these things? And it's not just Canada, again, it's other countries as well. Agree to these things and then never achieve them. Right. Why don't we do something real that's measurable and actually accomplished instead of these foolish things that aren't achievable? And yet, at least in Canada, we're implementing policies that hurt people, supposedly in the name of things like the Paris Accord.
Point 3, we have to get back to work. We cannot continue to live with an economic lockdown. Are you worried about a second wave of lockdowns in Canada?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. And again, we have seen governments spend tons of our money that is going to at some point have to be paid back in the future by future generations. I mean, this is a horrendous situation I'm not young anymore, so I won't probably have to deal with this very much, but our kids and our grandkids and on are going to have to deal with this. So yes, another lockdown, I think would be inexcusable. And we're looking at international examples like Sweden, which certainly did have some relatively high death rates, but they didn't shut down their economy. And now, several months later, we're seeing that their actual experience with the pandemic isn't that different from other countries. But because they didn't shut down their economy, they didn't have that horrendous economic mess to try to clean up.
Well, not just economic mess. When you shut down the economy, you have other illnesses that are not treated, depression that's created.
Yes.
Point 4, we have to reduce the regulatory burden on work. That's pretty clear. Point 5, Canada must ensure that the critical supply chain items are manufactured in Canada. What do you mean by that?
Well, that gets to the whole personal protective equipment and other related matters that we saw how vulnerable Canada was. And we had, of course, government departments and agencies that were supposedly taking care of this. And you remember early on in the pandemic, Ezra, you remember we had chief health officials in Ottawa telling us, oh, we dealt with SARS, so we're really ready for this. Of course, it was total baloney. We're not. So let's not put ourselves in that position again, is what that's all about.
And the 6th point in your plan is Canadians should acknowledge the contribution of our resource sector to our Canadian economy and celebrate it. I'm worried because I heard Chrystia Freeland talk about decarbonizing the economy. You can't have any mining, oil and gas, petrochemicals, plastics. Even forestry is, so many outdoor, even agriculture are energy intensive. I'm worried that they're going to go for that virtue signal globally and kill our key resource industries.
Yeah, that's a lot of people are worried about that. And I think a lot of people don't realize in Canada that aren't that close to it, perhaps, how much our economy is heavily dependent on that. And frankly, we see other countries around the world. I love how some of the green acolytes like to talk about countries like Norway, who are doing some very good things on the social policy front, but are exploiting their oil resources like nobody's business. Why are we in Canada trying to punish ourselves? Our God-given wealth that we have of natural resources in Canada, why are we not sensibly using that to our advantage, and it blows your mind. But I think another point too is that some people in various parts of the country think, oh, this is Alberta's problem, or maybe a little bit Saskatchewan's problem. No, it is the whole country's problem. So many manufacturers and other businesses are heavily dependent on what happens in our resource sector. It affects jobs in Ontario. We saw in Newfoundland with that Husky project that recently has been postponed and possibly canceled. Newfoundland horribly affected by what's happening in the resource sector in Canada as well. So nobody is exempt here, and to not take advantage in a sensible way of the wealth that we have been given in resources is pure foolishness and will beggar a lot of Canada.
Yeah. Well, great to talk with you today, Catherine Swift. Nice to see you again. Thanks for spending so much time with us.
My pleasure, Ezra.
All right, there you have it. The website, if you want to look at these 6 points and learn more, is responsiblerecovery.ca. That's an excerpt from my daily show, the Ezra Levant Show. Every day I do a monologue on the news of the day, then I interview an interesting guest, and then I read my hate mail. You gotta subscribe. Go to rebelnews.com.